there, Bethel Park. It's me, Amy Taylor, with a special edition of Healthy, Fit, and Strong. We have with us today Hank Walshak. He is the president and owner of Walshak Communications. Welcome today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a joy. I understand that for the last 37 years, you've been running your own business of Walshak Communications. Can you talk to the people at home about what it is that you do?
Well, we do basically, as the title indicates, we basically do communications work of varied types: public relations, writing, books, magazines, everything having to do with public relations and publicity.
So essentially, you take these executives and you make them look and sound better than they should.
Yeah, I have two training programs. One is television training. It's titled, I don't have a book, I just have a manual as we do the training. It's called Tell It to 'Em in Sound Bites. And then the other one I have was The World of Business is a Stage and You're on It.
Mm-hmm. And 37 years doing what you love? You enjoy what you do?
Oh, I absolutely enjoy it, even at my age. I absolutely enjoy it because I get to work with great people, you know, executives at companies, and they're out to do their companies good, and I'm helping them to do that.
And some of the companies that you've helped are Alcoa, Bristol-Myers,
Yes.
GE, Exxon, Heinz, just to name a few.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there one company that it was more important than another?
No.
That you like them all the same?
They're all important. Well, I'm working with them. They're most important.
Beyond the consulting, the developing, and the implementing of all of your strategies, I also understand that you write books, you edit books.
Yes, I do.
Well, talk to us about first the writing aspect. You've written 2 books?
I've written, I think 4 of them now.
4 books?
Yeah.
And you brought one with you today?
Yeah, there are 2 books. You mentioned writing and editing. This is a book that I've wrote for a gentleman named Greg Kotikia. Mm-hmm. He's now CEO of Sopheon.
Oh.
Is the company. I wrote this before. He was still at the University of Pittsburgh, and I wrote this with him. I didn't write it. He wrote it. I edited it to make it really book-like, in book form.
How many pages is in this book? This is about 150 pages. How long would it take you to edit, something like that?
It was about 3 or 4 months' work.
How did Greg hear about you to get you involved in the editing process?
He knew me. I knew Greg from, God, I forget where I know him from, but he knew me.
Okay.
He knew
me.
Of
you?
Knew
or did he
of
knew
me.
you?
Yeah.
Knew of you, okay.
He knew of me, and so that's what happened. He gave me a call one day, he wanted to get together. He's got a book that he's written, and it was right up his alley because he's an expert on starting companies. Wow. He started 4 companies.
Wow, big companies.
Well, they grew to be bigger companies, yeah. But first smaller, like the title says, start your startup right. Mm-hmm. That was the whole thing he was giving advice on. You know, there's good ways and bad ways to start companies.
And how many books would you say you've edited?
Oh, probably about 4.
4
4
books.
4 or 5, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you also have a book that you wrote?
Yeah.
This is incredible to me.
I turned into a historian.
Of Pittsburgh or where?
Whatever I happened to be writing about. Like this is Elmira College up in Elmira, New York.
Because you attended Elmira?
No.
No.
Because it was a referral from one of the earlier books I wrote with Scott Miller at Wesleyan College in Dover, Delaware. And he referred me to the president of then Elmira, and I called and we talked, and I got.
So how do you research the history of Elmira College, for example?
Well, I get as much printed material as I can from the college, and then we make a selection of people that need to be interviewed to make this really complete. Because
would those be the higher-up people interviewed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. People who know a lot about Elmira, were there through many of the changes that went on, and people that got the university going to, say, a higher plane. Mm-hmm. They want to get that on record. So.
Did you visit the college?
Yes, I did.
Did you interview anyone, say the students, faculty at the college?
Yes.
Are there words in there?
Not students so much as faculty
okay.
and other executives.
Okay. So the history of the college is there. And how many pages would you say that is? Because that's looking pretty thick. That would take me more than a day to read. On the average of how many pages?
This is 315 pages.
So 300-page book you wrote.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to write that? Between the
This
researching,
took
the
about
interviewing,
took about a year.
and the writing.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Well,
That's not bad.
most of the time, I figure it's going to take me to write. It's going to take me 9 months to a year to write any major work. First of all, you do like initial interviews. This could be by phone. You know, what's so important to be included in this history? What's going on? Tell me what's changing. You know, why is the company different now than it was before? You know, what kind of changes? What do you want to get across to your audience? Because that sets my mind thinking on how to really write this piece.
That book in particular, what would you say is your favorite chapter or your favorite part of that book that you spent the most time researching that you think is so fascinating and special to that book?
I always liked the startup parts when the college first started. That's what.
And the changes that transpired from there.
Yeah, in other words, it's like organizations grow.
Yes.
They either go out of business or they grow bigger. From what I've seen in business, there's not much of a other choice.
That's right.
Besides that, you know, you're either going to go forward, maximize your business, or you're going to die out. It's hard to stay the same because look at like now, social media is so fast outpacing original ways of writing. So much is done by Zoom. You know, now you can interview. Now you don't have to go visit people necessarily. You can do interviews by Zoom.
That's right.
And that's just as good as an in-person interview. You know, it's electronics have turned out to be a book writer's or a book editor's best friend.
Let me ask you, that book right there, is your picture on the back or is your picture on the inside? Authored by with your picture?
No, I don't think we had my picture. No, we didn't have my picture, but it does have my name on the spine of the book.
I love it. I love it so much. So I was referring to in the movies, when I see people typing, where do you do your typing or where do you do your writing?
I do my writing I have an office in my home.
I see. Okay.
And I have an upstairs office.
In Bethel Park you live?
Yeah, that my wife is really haunting me to clean up.
Oh. Is it a little dusty now? It's a little dusty.
Well, no, my office, if you could imagine an accountant
Yes.
at tax time,
Oh.
you go into their office, they got stuff all over the floor. I look like an accountant's office.
How many books have you written?
I think I've written actually 4.
Do you know the names of the other books offhand?
Well, one other book is I wrote with Razi Imam.
Yes.
Razi is well known in Pittsburgh. He has a new company now called 114 Industries. But so I wrote one for Razi.
May I correct you there? You actually ghost wrote it for Ozzy Miron, right?
Yes.
And explain to the viewers at home what exactly ghostwriting is.
So when a writer substitutes for the main person, whose real name is really going to go on the book, the writer actually writes the book. That's what's called a ghost writer. It's not the main author really of the book. The main author of the book is the person who's committing the book to be done. It's all going to be done in his words, and that's another thing that relates to this.
Why would Razi hire you as a ghostwriter? Like, why would someone need a ghostwriter?
Someone would need a ghostwriter if they, you know, how many people have you ever known that really want to say, and I've said it, I would really love to write a book about,
But, ...
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I would really like to, but there are people out there, executives and otherwise, who say to themselves, I would really like to write this book, but they don't have much or any experience in writing. and and writing is a craft. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's a real craft, not just to write, to make sure it's understandable. So there's no areas where someone's reading the book that you've written and they go, I don't know what that means. You never want a reader to be able to say
Right.
that. You want to make it crystal clear,
Hmm.
you know?
So in total, you've written 4 books, including the one that you ghost wrote.
Yeah.
Anything special about any of the other books?
Yeah, the one for Razi Imam that I
It
mentioned.
was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one because it's titled Driven, a way to enlarge yourself, you know, to get going.
Hmm.
So that was a special book. You know, it was a special to Razi because Razi, and most of the people I work with they're not compulsive about what they do, but they're really on task with what they need to get done with a book.
And I understand that you also write for magazines, local magazines.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
What you have to do is you have to read the magazines. You have to find out what kind of style the magazines are written in, and then you write in that style. So,
Are you currently writing anything from editing work?
well,
writing a
I'm
new book?
editing. I'm editing a book that's about halfway done, and there was a break in the process because what I'm doing is I'm interviewing the author. She's a woman with a PhD, and I'm writing it for her after interviewing her. It's going to be about early American political science and how our political science here in the United States has changed from early American history to now. It looks like it's who can buy a congressman or representative.
That's some heavy subject matter.
Oh, that's heavy subject matter. Yeah, because if you suck $1 million into fund a political candidate, in fact, it's the same woman author who wrote "What Sex Is a Republican."
Yes, I've heard of that book, yes.
Yeah, it's an enchanting read. She spent about 5 or 6 years in the Chicago Congress. So that's where she got her inclinations and learning from being there and seeing really what went on.
Do you ever feel the need to interject your opinion into this, or you just totally buy the book, write subject
Well,
matter based upon fact?
Yeah, it's not my book.
Right.
You know, it's an author's book. You know, so I have to keep in mind what is her style like? What does she like to? How does she like to write things? I may bring up something, you know, if it has to do with a current local politician. You have to be careful so you don't run into problems.
I'd be so nervous.
Oh yeah.
I'd be nervous I'm going to get in trouble with somebody for something because,
Yeah.
well, with today's society, it's all PC and anything you say can be just, construed the wrong way.
Oh sure, absolutely.
I would be extremely nervous doing what you
You
do.
have to be very, very, very careful.
Yeah.
So, given that and with that in mind, you tread with tender toes around stuff like that, you know.
Bethel Park, tread with tender toes when dealing with political commentary. I love it so much. You're just so adorable.
Thank you.
And you also are on several boards of directors.
Yes, I'm on the. I'm on one board of directors. I forget the name of it. We haven't done anything in such a long time, but the woman who's writing, whose book I am writing with now, she heads up a board of directors for good printed stuff in her region. So she talks with the congressmen and the representatives of Wisconsin.
How did you meet her? Like, how did the two of you get involved?
That was a reference from someone here in Pittsburgh who knew me. He knew I wrote, he knew her, and she was complaining about having someone write a book for her, that she didn't have anyone, hadn't found anyone. And he said, well, I got a guy you can talk to.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy. I know just what you need, you know.
Why did she stop the book halfway through? You said it's only halfway
She
down.
had some health problems.
I see. Okay.
So what we're doing now is just, it's like a hiatus.
I see.
And
Okay.
we'll probably start again soon.
Okay.
But I don't like to.
I was just wondering if her publisher put her on a deadline where she has to have,
No.
you know, a book out at a certain
No.
amount of time. No.
No.
Okay.
We haven't selected a publisher yet.
Okay.
But she's very knowledgeable. She researches like a true historian. I mean, she does it, looks to the finest degree. And she has a program that she's developed that you put in a politician's name, you put in talks that they have given,
Yeah.
and you see if they do what they do of what they said they were going to do.
Sounds like an empty program. No information in there.
Yeah.
Hank, can you talk to us a little bit about your education, your background that led you to become an author, an
Oh.
editor,
Well,
board of director,
yeah, well,
owner of your own business?
my educational background is,
Yeah.
to back up just a little bit, out of high school, I was studying to be a Roman Catholic priest.
Oh,
I was in the seminary.
you actually were in the seminary? For
Yes,
how
I
long?
went to the seminary 4 years here in the States, 2 years to a general college, 2 years to a major college that finished bachelor degrees.
Yes.
And then the Bishop of Hartford, every year he sent 2 individuals from the seminary overseas to Louvain, Belgium, and 2 to Rome to study at the Gregorianum in Rome. I was one of those fortunate people that he sent to the University of Louvain in Louvain, Belgium.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, that was the greatest thing that happened to me.
Why?
First of all, I didn't know any French, and everything in Louvain, Belgium is either Flemish or French. And the American college where I stayed was French. You know, everything was in French. But when you're in the environment where the language is used every day, you pick it up faster because you're using it every day and you're finding out what things mean. So you
The
develop.
submersive technique.
yeah.
You're submersed in it, you either sink or swim.
Yeah, and you build a vocabulary and phrases and so on and so forth. So you talk pretty much French. And so I went to the University of Louvain in 3 years, and then I decided I was not going to become a priest. There was too much regimentation that I didn't think I would be able to put up with.
Can you put that into words? What type of regimentation?
Well, you know, for example, you're celibate, first of all.
And you maybe wanted a family?
Yeah, you know, you think about, gee, what am I going to be all alone? You know, that kind of thinking. And I thought, no, I don't want to be all alone. I want to have a family, a wife, you know, like my mother and father did. Though I sometimes wondered why they didn't get a divorce.
Well, that's very interesting. How many years did you spend studying?
In Louvain, 3 years.
Wow. And then just one day you just woke up and second thought yourself.
I gotta get abstention from my promise to become a priest, which I was able to do.
What does that mean, an abstention? You have to ask for permission or you have to write a letter?
Yeah,
or-
I had to write a letter to the bishop,
I see. And ask permission.
ask permission.
And then they have
yeah.
to grant you permission.
Yeah.
Do they ever not grant permission?
They'll find some way to refuse it if they need to refuse it.
Wow.
I'm sure they've done it sometimes in the past.
I see.
you
But
know.
in your case, they granted it?
Yes, they granted it,
And
and
you
so I
came
was
home.
able to come home.
Okay.
When I got home, that was the first step, but then I thought, I got to support myself.
Yeah.
So then I thought,
How old were you at this time?
I was between 26 and 27.
Okay.
I came home, I got out, and I was thinking one day, what in heaven's name am I going to do?
Yeah, I think we all have that thought.
Then I realized, oh, I know French. So I wrote a letter. This was before emails. I wrote a letter to, maybe about 8 or 10 publishing companies, letting them know that if they ever needed a book translated from French to English, I could do that.
You're so smart.
And
Versatile.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're kind. One of the companies I wrote with was the then Newman Press.
Wow.
They were located in Reisterstown, Maryland. So that they wanted a very thin book in French they needed translating. I wrote that. I translated the French and wrote that. And then the editor says to me, "You want to come down and work for us here?"
Wow. So you were offered a job after your very first translating gig.
So that worked. I became part of that company.
And you didn't mind leaving Pittsburgh to go to Maryland?
I was not living in Pittsburgh then. I was living in Connecticut.
I see. Okay.
Milford, Connecticut. And so I worked for them for a couple of years. And then I thought, well, I'll see what else is out there. You never know when you might need something else. I got back to Connecticut. I left that company. It was acquired by the Paulus fathers, so I didn't want to work for them. I just didn't have that in my mind, and that's when it started. That's when I started doing this full time.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's just,
And didn't you also work in New York City?
I enjoyed working in New York City.
What did you do?
I worked at a company called Burson Marsteller, Public Relations.
Yes.
In New York
To have
City.
a job in New York City must be pretty good.
Oh yeah. And the great thing about working in New York City, you never had to move from where you are because you took the train in every
That's
day.
right. So many opportunities.
Yes, I went from my first firm that I work at, Burson Marsteller, went to a firm called Cunningham and Walsh, public relations. Worked with them for a while. Then I somehow got word that Ketchum Public Relations, then located here, headquartered in Pittsburgh, I think they're in New York now, they were here. So I thought, I'll take a look at that company. So I wrote Jerry Voros, who was then the CEO, and gave him a call, and we had a good conversation. And then they hired me as an account executive.
Wow.
So I worked for them until I became vice president, and then I thought,
Vice president of the company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked for them and I knew what public relations was all about because I had worked in it. And I said to my then wife, Jeanette, I think I'd start my own company. That's what I did.
Wow.
It was almost like a lark.
Wow.
Let's see if this can happen in any way.
Yeah.
And I started networking, and in Pittsburgh you network a lot, and I started doing that and calling people up, you turn into a salesperson, making cold calls.
Selling yourself.
Yeah, making cold calls, to different places and companies and PR departments, for example. That's when the business starts to roll in, and you keep it going.
Are you still doing PR work? Would you welcome any more opportunities, or that ship has sailed?
I will do it if a client needs it, or a client may need just like a magazine article.
Right.
I will do that. But what I'm really into now is writing and editing books.
Okay.
Because I work with the people that I work with are great people, and I was once studying to be a priest. But keep in mind, I went into a service business. What is the priesthood? It's a service way of work.
Yes.
That priests follow. It's a service way of doing things. So I'm a service business now.
I
You know,
understand.
so
And I also understand that you are open to the possibility of helping our youth. Talk to the camera about what it is, the services that you're willing to provide as far as public speaking goes.
as far as public speaking,
Yes.
well, I have one that uh, I play executive coach
Mm-hmm.
to executives to help them improve their stand-up talks. Because, you know, they're always talking, you know, at annual report time, they may be out in front of an audience, and getting in front of a large audience is it can be kind of frightening.
Yeah.
You know, if you haven't done that before.
Mm-hmm.
So I give them a really tough program, you know, and I videotape them as we're doing it, so we go back and look at the videotapes
Critique it.
when I'm done with the training parts of the sessions that I conduct, and you get them, help them to change, and it's you have to know how to work with people to get them to change. People don't say change just because you say that word.
Right.
They have to be prodded and helped to change. And I also do a similar program with my other program, Tell It to Them in Sound Bites. The one thing that people who haven't done TV before, you can't talk for an hour and a half. You know, you have to be aware that there's time involved.
Right. And people's attention span is smaller.
Yeah, yeah. And people will tune you out if they get bored. You know, they're gone. Bye.
That's right.
There goes your audience. So you have to be able to encapsulate things,
Right.
really bring it down to a gist,
That's right.
a form that can be understood by people. And that's what you train them in.
I love it.
You know, and then, you know, then before we're done, I usually ask, sometimes if they like to, I'll ask their boss or bosses to come in and listen to a presentation. See, if they get that stamp of approval,
Right.
then they know they're good. So,
And I know that you have confided in with me, and I want to share with the people at home. If you have any youth in your household or in your area that want to increase their public speaking abilities, Hank is welcoming them for his services for free to teach them how to be a better personal speaker.
always, 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 without fail, be honest. You know, don't pull any funny things with your work. You know, make sure you're being honest, and that'll take care of you.
Yes. I think you are a very honest person. I think you're a very hardworking person. I find you very honorable, and truly it was my pleasure to interview you here today.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bethel Park, my name is Amy Taylor, Healthy, Fit, and Strong. I'm here with Hank Walshak, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for inviting me.